So this week we celebrated Thanksgiving and we had an otherwise very picturesque type autumnal weather near where I'm at. Really nice start to the week up until the weekend, in which we got our first sort of snow. It was gray, overcast, a bit of a whiteout, and some really wet weather, slush-like, towards the end of the week here. So these were my fragrance wardrobe picks for the near about final week of November here, or the third week. Ending off here today on the 26th. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into the list. Peace be with you, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Trevor. Very grateful to have you here. Today is going to be my fragrance rotation for the third week of November. Starting off with Monday. More brisk despite having some nice sunny weather throughout the course of the beginning of the week. The temperatures have begun to drop down into the 30s, so I was itching for something a little bit denser, a little bit darker, a little bit more maybe on the leathery side, as that's a note that I really like in the transition period between fall and winter. Decided to go for Jazz Club on Monday. Don't let the juice level deceive you. This is my second bottle. I actually made it about 50 mLs in on my first. Dropped it, so sadly had to replace it just about last winter, I believe, around this time, I want to say. Jazz Club really does a good job of selling itself in terms of transporting you to this location, which is what the brand replica attempts to do. You get tobacco, smoke, leather, and booze, all of these coming together with a little bit of a vanillic sweetness as well to kind of round it out, make it a little bit more wearable. Very seductive and sensual scent. Some of the most emphatic and doll-eyed comments I've gotten while wearing this fragrance. So a really big hit with the women and a compliment puller. Didn't get any compliments this past Monday, but really great wearing experience. It's so good that it influenced my pick for Tuesday. Again, sitting with a little bit more of the brisk weather, still hankering for that darker leather accord, I decided to go with this one, which I've been testing out from an indie brand. This is Dark Suede from Hawthorne. So while a smaller indie brand, they do commission professional perfumers. So this one was perfumed by Olivier Guillotine, who's done many of the Tom Ford fragrances, including Fougère d'Argent and Tobacco Vanille. So really great composition here. The performance on the Hawthorns has not been the greatest for me. I get about 4 to 6 hours with most of what I've tried from them, but really great high quality ingredients despite the lack of performance. This one, I'm not entirely sure if it's cloning Gris Charnel. To some extent, I've never smelled Gris Charnel, but I know that this one features prominent notes of fig and sandalwood, but there is that suede in here, and it's definitely a suede accord. It's not quite regular rugged leather. It's very smooth, almost furry to some extent. I feel like I get a little bit of a camphorous note in here, which is sort of like this wood resin that's got a bit of a medicinal green touch. And otherwise, the opening in this is absolutely astounding. Really nice chocolate covered fig vibe. And then you get that almost fuzzy suede and camphor notes as it dries down. Performance, like I said, is about average, and the projection sits a little bit close to the skin. This actually wears very similarly to Jazz Club. These are quite comparable. I would say if you took the tobacco out of here and replaced it with a really ripe, jammy fig, this is what you're going to get here. So these two are pretty similar, but this one goes a lot more fruity and less smoky. But yeah, really enjoyed wearing this one. The opening is to die for, and I'm still waiting to get a little bit more experience with it and maybe some different weather patterns before I decide putting this in a list or recommending it outright. But it is a seasonal exclusive, so if it sounds interesting, maybe go ahead and check them out. And I think they're still doing Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, so would be a good time to maybe get your hands on this one. 50 ml bottles. Wednesday. So Wednesday, again, keeping with that darker vibe, seeing as the temperatures were hanging out pretty close underneath the 40-degree mark. This is one of my favorites, and I go into work late on Wednesday, so this is something I grabbed with the nighttime in mind. And while I didn't get any compliments, I did get a lot of head turning going on from both the staff and some of the customer base that night, and it was none other than Dior Sauvage Elixir. Really my one of my favorite Diors in general. It just has the right amount of projection, longevity, scent profile, maturity, and a unique licorice note, which is something that I really gravitate toward in the winter. And because it is a Sauvage, that lavender in there, it does keep a certain fresh, brisk, aromatic vibe that I think, despite its density, I could even see myself wearing this in air-conditioned climates in the summertime. So this is a must-own in my opinion. I mean, it does have a little bit more of a mature feel, but I think it balances sweetness and herbal aromatics very well, and is a stunning composition. I do like this more than Lattafa's Assad. I haven't tried the newer clone in that squishy bottle, but this is something I definitely think you should get your nose on at your local Macy's, Ulta, or Sephora, and consider picking it up or putting it on your Christmas wish list. For sure, 2023. This is Dior Sauvage Elixir. Thursday was Thanksgiving Day, and if you followed up with any of my recent videos leading up to Thanksgiving, you knew that this was going to be my pick for Thanksgiving Day, and it worked beautifully. This was probably the warmest day that we had throughout the week. I was really enjoying playing out in the leaves and soaking in the sunlight and the nice colorful hues. And this fragrance is very easygoing, but also very classy and elegant. This is Hermes Bel Ami Vetiver. So I like to describe this one as a licorice nut butter. Again, there's that licorice note. Even though there's no licorice in here, it's built around alamy resin and leather, and so the leather's a bit buttery and the alamy resin gives off a licorice type sweetness. So I often describe this as a licorice nut butter fragrance with a little bit of a dusty feel, almost like a catcher's mitt up in the attic, a little bit of a dusty buttery leather. Really elegant, classy composition, nice degree of dry spices. Definitely puts me in the mood for Thanksgiving Day. Reminds me of like dried fruits and woods, and nostalgia just hits me with this fragrance. I don't know why, if somebody in my youth used to wear this or not, but it's just definitely something that puts me in a good state of mind, reminds me of simpler times. And so this was no doubt my fragrance of the day for Thursday, Thanksgiving, Bel Ami Vetiver. So Friday was the beginning of the descent into a little bit more colder temperatures. The sky was getting a lot more cloudy. It was kind of gearing up for the snowstorm to come on the weekend, but there were still pockets of sunshine. Either way, Friday is the day where I like to honor the most and wear my sort of Sunday's best, but on Friday, so I always try to wear a niche fragrance on Friday, and just went ahead and decided to go with Tuxedo from YSL for Black Friday. This was a welcome companion for me during my shift at work. I didn't get any compliments or head turning going on. I go in really early on Friday and Thursday to prep the store, and so this is something that might have faded by the end of my shift later on in the afternoon. Not the greatest performance on this one. I get about average between like 6 and 7 hours, but during that amount of time, it's just so lovely. Just nice, rich patchouli, a sweetness going on, a little bit of spices, but it's not, I wouldn't say this is like a spicy fragrance. It just has some spices that add to the textural feel that makes this very classy, upscale, and elegant. I have asked women to compare this with Mustache. They do say, without having known the bottles or the price or what the fragrances were, they were just on test strips, actually they were on my hands, whether or not this or Mustache was their preference, and they definitely said that this one smelled a little bit classier. Although the differences between the two are very nuanced, this one is a welcome wearing experience. And I think if you haven't tried this one and you've got a lot of the clones, maybe go ahead and buy like a 2 ml sample of this just to get a full frame reference point of what this DNA is doing, and try the real thing. But again, I highly recommend trying this one out, even if you have the clones. This is YSL's Tuxedo. Then Friday night, I came home, showered up, and then me and my daughter went out that evening to go do some errands, visit my wife at the restaurant, just kind of get mobile. We were getting a little bit restless hanging out around the house. She's not quite 2, but she definitely needs a lot of stimulation right now, and so we went out later that evening to kind of just spread our wings, so to speak, and I decided to put on Angel Share for that evening, and this was great. One of my favorites for this time of the year, although it does put me in the mood for sort of that Christmas time vibe. I think the light brevity of it combined with the oakiness, the oak woods, the depth of the oak woods, and the light airy quality of the rest of the composition, and the apple pie kind of vibe it gives off with the oak. I think this is a great pick for the month of November and the transition from fall into winter. And yeah, just nice oak, apple pie, and a little bit of booziness with a very silky textural feel. And that silky texture and then the woody oak edges are something that don't really come up in the clones for me with this one, which is why I do suggest just getting your nose on the original in particular with this one, as none of the clones that I've tried have quite been able to capture the magic. So that was Friday evening Killian's Angel Share. Saturday, I was testing out one of the other fragrances that I just picked up from Hawthorne. This is Spicy and Aromatic Barbershop. So this one was a real big surprise. I didn't like it on first impressions, but as I got some more time to wear it, it has definitely grown on me. And what you get here is essentially a budget version of Houbigant's Fougere Royale, and while this one lacks some of the complexity of that one, there's no chamomile note in here. It was perfumed by the same perfumer, Rodriguez Flores Rue, and this is a great $50 barbershop fragrance, Barbershop Fougere, and I highly recommend it. They list, I think, cinnamon leaf, lemon, cedar, and lavender as the note breakdown, but I do pick up on some geranium in here. It gives it a little bit of a minty cool quality. And the lavender in here is very nice, very creamy, almost reminds me a little bit of the lavender that they have in Beau de Jour. This is just a great overall Fougere fragrance for an affordable price. I definitely recommend checking this one out if you're into that genre of fragrance as I am. So that was Spicy and Aromatic Barbershop from Hawthorne for Saturday. Finally, on Sunday, I decided to go for one of my discontinued rare fragrances. I want to get some time to spend with these ones. I'm doing a lot of testing and recommending things that are currently available, but it would be a shame to disrespect some of these greats that have gone on by letting them collect dust. So again, keeping in with that craving for sort of sweet, dark, smoky leathers, decided to go with Van Cleef & Arpels Midnight in Paris. This is the Eau de Toilette version, and basically this is a leather twist on Prada Luna Rossa Black. It's that same DNA, but it's got a nice little bit of added darkness from a leather note in here. I think this was perfumed in part by Olivier Poche, who has done a lot of favorites like Valentino Uomo and the original Dior Homme. And I believe Dolce & Gabbana's The One Eau de Toilette. So again, you know, if you're a fan of any of those fragrances, this one's right in that wheelhouse. A little bit darker, used to be a cheapie. Hard to find this for like under $300 anymore. Definitely not worth it, but would be great if you stumbled upon it at some kind of yard sale or something like that. So, and this bottle in some respect I think is worthy of the marked up price tag, just because it's so beautiful of a ornament to your decor in the home. I actually bought this one after it was discontinued, so while I don't recommend paying out the wazoo for it, I did. So I wish you could get your nose on it to see if it's worth the markup for you. I don't think it's quite worth it, but I just wanted to have it in the collection. And really glad that I did, because it was probably my top 3 wearing experiences for the week this week here at the third week of November. So definitely can't recommend checking this one out, but I will say that I did enjoy wearing it, and I would recommend you go ahead and wear yours sometime soon if you've been allowing yours to collect dust and it's in your collection as well. Alright, that was my weekly rotation in fragrance. Let me know what yours was in the comment section down below. Let me know if you picked up any good deals for Black Friday this past weekend, what you picked up and at what price. Let me know in the comment section down below. Love chatting with you guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.